The young girl gave a humph. She continued attacking, but said, "The pill formula for this storm pill was a damaged, incomplete one. My master spent a considerable number of years and finally managed to complete the formula. Such a feat was an incredible contribution to the field of alchemy, and you dare to insult my master, so don't you think you deserve a beating?" Eh? The storm pill, too, was lost in the passage of time? Could not help frowning. What was going on here? Why had so many pill formula from his time been lost? Reverse pill, storm pill, dark moon grass actually being used to concoct purple origin pill, which was a spine-chillingly wasteful use of the dark moon grass. Logically, after 10,000 years, even if knowledge of alchemy had not improved much, it shouldn't have degraded to such a level, right? He struck fiercely with a palm, forcing the girl away from him, he said with a smile. "If that's true, then your master is indeed quite skilled. However, if I manage to concoct a better quality storm pill, then what are you going to do?" "Impossible! How can you surpass my master?" The girl did not believe him at all. "Just let me give it a try. Worst comes to worst, we'll continue our fight later," Ling Han said. "Fine." The girl agreed. Ling Han grabbed the alchemy furnace that had been dropped on the ground and said, "Prepare the ingredients for me." He opened his mouth and in one breath recited a list of more than 20 different medicinal ingredients. If it was someone else, they would definitely not be able to remember all the ingredients. But since this young girl was an alchemist, she must definitely have a very powerful memory in this area. Very soon, she went into the room and returned with the ingredients Ling Han needed. Ling Han sat down on the ground. His right hand held onto the alchemy furnace. Hong! And flames instantly appeared upon his hand. The girl's beautiful face revealed a sliver of displeasure. After all, when an alchemist was in the midst of concocting alchemical pills, they all kept up a solemn demeanor, and would usually seat themselves cross-legged on the ground. This was a kind of formality. Yet Ling Han had just simply sat on the ground in such a relaxed fashion. This was absolutely inappropriate. But once she saw that Ling Han had began the process of pill concoction, she could only force back the admonishment that had come to her mouth. To disturb another whilst he was in the midst of pill concoction was one of the greatest taboos for alchemists, so naturally she would not deliberately violate this rule. She was very much disdainful. One had to understand that although her master did not belong to the Heaven's Medicine Pavilion, his level of achievement in alchemy was absolutely authentic. He was a black-grade high-level alchemist, and that was the same grade as the highest-ranked official of Heaven's Medicine Pavilion in Rain Country. Her master was currently the headmaster of the alchemy department in Huyang Academy. When there was mention of the name Wu Songlin, what person would not respectfully address him as Grandmaster? Even the imperial family of Rain Country had to give her master a modicum of respect. This brat actually dared to call her master an idiot. If this news was spread out, he'd definitely be beaten to death within 3 steps out of this courtyard. Once Ling Han began the process of pill concoction, his demeanor immediately changed. There was an air similar to the air of a great master circulating around him. His left hand moved very quickly, throwing medicinal ingredients into the furnace one after another. In the meantime, the furnace rotated continuously on his right hand. The flames were sometimes red, sometimes green, and sometimes white, transforming from one to the other color at a very rapid rate, seeming like a blur to any observer. The girl's disdainful expression had rapidly disappeared, and a shocked expression revealed itself on her face instead. Amateurs would only enjoy the show, while experts would enjoy the artfulness. Her name was Li Si-chan, and she herself was a genius of alchemy, which was why she had been taken as a disciple by Wu Songlin. She was a very conceited person, but when she compared herself to Ling Han, she had to admit that Ling Han's movements were much more experienced and mature than her own. His movements were very natural and relaxed, as if he had been immersed in this field for a few hundred years, and had reached the level where he could easily concoct pills even with his eyes closed. Such an achievement, let alone her, even her master was far inferior. How could this be? How could this be? Shouldn't this guy be a profligate young master? How was it that he had such frightening ability in the field of alchemy? Within mere moments, the medicinal ingredients in front of Ling Han had all disappeared, and some sweat had appeared on his forehead. Storm Pill was a yellow-grade mid-level alchemical pill, after all. Furthermore, it was one of the more difficult to concoct types. He was able to concoct it now, but because his cultivation level was a bit too weak, it exerted much of his energy to do so. Yi, my good disciple, have you finally concocted the Storm Pill? At this moment, a voice filled with surprise was heard from the doorway. A small, short old man walked in, all smiles and with a food container held in his hands. There was another old man behind him. The two of them walked in together. And if one paid careful attention, they would be able to discover that there were 3 silver badges hanging on the chests of these 2 men, black-grade high-level alchemists. In the whole of Rain Country, there were only 2 black-grade high-level alchemists. One of them was the pavilion master of Heaven's Medicine Pavilion, Xuanhuan, whereas the other was the headmaster of the alchemy department of Huyang Academy, Wu Songlin. And they were these 2 men. Wu Songling saw the girl was standing at one side, and his face was instantly filled with surprise. He had never thought that the person who was in the middle of concocting the pill was not his disciple. Yi? Fu Yuansheng also revealed a shocked expression. He knew that Wu Songlin had obtained a very good disciple who had managed to become a yellow-grade mid-level alchemist at the mere age of 18. Moreover, the Storm Pill was one of the more difficult to concoct pills among yellow-grade mid-level alchemical pills, and now it was actually being concocted by another youngster. Naturally, this was enough to surprise him. It can't be that this old man Wu has gotten another genius of alchemy as a disciple, right? Damn it, why were all the talented people snatched away by him? Hun Yu had initially been extremely bored. She had lain down on the ground and had been sleeping, but after Wu Songlin entered, her nose immediately wrinkled, and she bounced up into a crouch, her eyes fixed upon the food container in his hands, and suddenly, with a low growl, she scuttled forward and pounced towards the food container. Ling Han's right hand rotated continuously. There actually appeared 3 different kinds of flames from between his 5 fingers at the same time, red, green, and white, which suddenly extinguished. 3 Fire Guide. He had invented this in his last life, and this discovery brought upon a revolution in the field of alchemy. It not only would increase the quality of the completed pill, it could even recover a dead pill that could cause the alchemy furnace to explode. 1. Wu Songlin and Fu Yuansheng were both flabbergasted. Their eyes were so wide that they were in danger of popping out of their skulls, and their mouths were wide open in shock. From the looks of it, they were extremely astonished and shocked. Meanwhile, Hun Yu took advantage of their distraction and snatched Wu Songlin's food container away. She immediately opened it up and began to enjoy the delicious contents. Could this be the legendary long-lost 3 Fire Guide? To be able to produce 3 different flames at different temperatures, which would improve the effects of the completed pill drastically. It can even recover dead pills. This is the legend of legends, and I've always thought this was only a myth. It should not be the real one, probably just an imitation, the 2 old men said, filled with astonishment. Who? Ling Han exhaled. He tossed the alchemy furnace to Li Si-chan and said, Fortunately, I've not disappointed your expectations. Take a look. Shua. The 2 old men simultaneously snatched at the furnace, as if they were 2 kids fighting over a toy. They were both powerful warriors of spiritual pedestal tier, so their actions were as fast as lightning, and only appeared to be a blur to observers. Li Si-chan was dumbstruck. These 2 were the most respected and revered alchemists in the whole of Rain Country, and now they were actually behaving like 2 kids. How could she believe what her own eyes were telling her? Finally, the 2 old men desisted at the same time. One of them held onto the furnace, while the other lifted the furnace lid and very carefully drew out a scarlet pill from within. This color, this aroma. There's no mistake. This is the real Storm Pill. Wu Songlin carved off a small slice, placed it into his mouth, and tasted it. He could not help the increasing degree of surprise and shock on his face, and said, This is definitely the real Storm Pill, and moreover, its effects have reached 12 stars. No, 13 stars. What? Fu Yuansheng instantly leaped up in shock.